Good evening, and thank you for listening to Dark Thoughts of Hope. I'm your host, Teresa Foley. So, I didn't wind up going to the movies. I went there, but was told they don't take Google Pay. And I could have sworn the last 2 times I went there, that's what I paid with, but I could also be mistaken and might have also just used a card and not remembered. So I went to a bar instead, and I ordered myself a meal and a soda, and I sat there and applied for more financial aid. And now I'm home, getting ready to watch a little bit of TV before I go to bed, hanging out with the ducks and my little purr Mila. I wanted to read a little bit more from Lois Duncan's I Know What You Did Last Summer. And also, I hope that you guys are enjoying this as much as I am, because I love reading, but I never thought that I could narrate a book. So the fact that I'm doing it, and I'm doing a pretty decent job doing so, is actually kind of cool. All right, well, without any more rambling, here is Chapter 6. On Memorial Day, Barry Cox had dinner with his parents. The conversation at the table was about the coming summer. His mother wanted him to spend it at home. Then in August, she said, "I thought we could take a little trip to the East Coast, just you and me. I know how you love to drive the Thunderbird, and it's been a good 4 years since we visited Aunt Ruth and Uncle Harry. If Dad can get away for a week, he could fly and meet us there. We might even take a few days in New York and see some shows." "Gee, Mom, I don't know," Barry told her. "I've sort of got some other things in mind for the summer." "You do?" Miss Cox looked surprised. "For heaven's sake, what? Summer school?" his father asked. "A job?" Mr. Cox was a quiet man, a number of years older than his wife. His hair was gray. Barry could not remember its ever having been any other color. He was an electrical engineer who worked in missile design for the government, and his mind and eyes often seemed to be focused on a spot a little beyond the reach of anyone else. "Lou Wheeler and one of the other guys are taking off for Europe," Barry said. "They're going to spend the summer bumming around over there, hiking, sleeping in hostels, you know, the whole bit. They want to know if I'll go with them." "That sounds like a pretty expensive 3 months, Mr. Cox commented dryly. "Not really. College kids get some sort of reduced plane fare, and the hostels are almost free. Food doesn't cost any more than it does here. It doesn't sound like a very nice way to see Europe." Miss Cox rested her salad fork on the side of her plate. "I had Europe in mind for you as a graduation present. A very special trip where we would stay in nice hotels and eat at famous restaurants, the one you always read about, and go to concerts and, everything. It was going to be a surprise." "That's 3 years away," Barry said. "They'll pass quickly, dear, too quickly. It just doesn't seem possible that you've almost completed a whole year of college." His mother smiled at him fondly. "You need a summer to relax and get to know your family again. You've been so wrapped up in your studies lately that we have hardly seen you." It was the same old tune he'd heard a million times before. His teeth were on edge and his toes were boring holes in the bottoms of his shoes by the time he finally got back to the fraternity house. When he entered his room, he found a card game in progress. A table had been hauled in from the living room, and 4 guys were seated around it. Lou Wheeler, his roommate, was dealing and paused long enough to greet him. "Hey, Cox, where have you been? Your golden girl's been trying to get a hold of you." "Oh," Barry shoved the door closed and sat on the edge of his bed. "I've been doing the duty call on the folks." trying to get them to come through with some bread for the summer. The boy on Lou's right glanced up in surprise. I thought your old man was loaded. He is, but it's Mom who dispenses it. Says it's really worth your neck to drive through the campus. They're having a fireworks display over at the stadium, and there's a regular traffic jam. Some of the kids are going to stage an anti-Memorial Day demonstration. Black banners, the whole works. Who needs a day to honor war? Lou started to sort his hand. Aren't you going to call Helen? She sounded pretty hot to see you. I'll call her in the morning, Barry told him. Lou gave a whistle. You nuts or something? He gestured toward the bureau. Get a load of that picture. Can you guys imagine putting off a chick who looks like that? There was a general laughter and a few crude but good-natured remarks from the other players. Helen's picture became the subject for general study. If you're tired of her, one boy said, just pass along her phone number. I just might do that, said Barry. He too glanced at the picture and continued studying it after the others had turned back to the game. It was Helen's junior class picture, one she had submitted to the Golden Girls contest. She had it hand-tinted for him. The hair was a little too gold, and the shade of the eyes was off. Across the bottom right corner, Helen had written in her round, childish script, with all my love, Heller. It had meant something when she had given it to him, but now it had become just another item on the bureau, along with a stud box and a comb and some other stuff. He seldom looked at it, but he had to admit that it had made a nice showpiece. Helen herself was a good showpiece, which was one reason he had not dropped her. My brother's coming out, so I'll continue this later. Have a good night, guys.